Back here on the Northland Sports page, is that considered a classic by now? I guess it's old because I'm old, but that was a fun song during my childhood. Little Wind of Change by Scorpion.
Well,
we both agree that's a great song.
It's an awfully good song. When I was a kid, I was a Scorpions fan, so it's probably not top of the list, but it's on the list.
And it's a good song to intro Paul Allen because the wind of change is certainly in the air for the Vikings. All bets are off as to what quarterback they're going to end up with in this draft if they do. I say all bets are off, of course, unless you're Shohei Ohtani's interpreter. Then all bets are on, perhaps.
Right. That's very true. That's a whole show we could have on its own.
Absolutely. That may come into the mix at some point. But we're happy once again to have PA in the mix. Mr. Paul Allen, good morning, sir.
And good morning. And per your song, each and every Saturday, you guys rock me like a hurricane.
Nice.
Oh, well done. Well done. You know, the amount of thought, and I know we've told you this before, but the amount of thought that we put into intro and outro music for you probably is tenfold more than anybody else, with all due respect to everybody else that's on the show.
That's 100% true, PA. We look and look and look.
I was going to say, when you have a fountain of music knowledge on with us, we have to, bring our A game.
Yeah, but you guys are thematic with it, so if they're, like say we were going to talk about Shohei Ohtani for 20 minutes, then you might have played Controversy by Prince.
Yes, and bumped him out with The Gambler by Kenny Rogers.
Yeah, say somebody wins the championship like the Kansas City Chiefs. They go back-to-back in the Super Bowl. Then it's We're Still Having Fun and We're Still the One by Orleans, a one-hit wonder. So I appreciate it. You guys are very thoughtful.
Well, we appreciate you. Want to bring you into something we covered during the opening segment. You might remember we talked about this several months ago. We talked about what if Minnesota teams didn't exist and you had to be a fan of somebody else within a division, who would you root for? Today we put a different spin on it. We said of the current rosters, if you could borrow one player from a team in your division and put him on yours, who would you take? For football, we did offense and defense. Offensively, I went with Frank Ragnow, hashtag one of us, joining the Vikes.
Ooh.
And defensively, I hated myself for it, but I took Jair Alexander in the hopes that he would be the A.J. Pierzynski of football, and we'd like him as long as he was ours. Dave, go ahead with your choices.
I went with St. Brown because I love his toughness, and I think as a slot guy, he would make this offense. And defense, I went with Lucas Van Ness because I think that spot is a huge hole for us, that defensive lineman in 3-4 who can rush the passer.
All right, so given that scenario, first of all, your thoughts on what we did, and what would you do if you could pine for someone that's a divisional foe right now?
I like the bit, and I believe last time you did the who would your favorite team be bit, I stole it and utilized it on 9 to Noon, and I very well may be stealing this on Monday, so thank you.
No problem.
Dave hits hard, all right, or as the kids would say, Dave smacks. When it comes with some of these opinions and stuff. The Lucas Van Ness swing with Aiden Hutchinson on the board and Montez Sweat, and I'm sure I could find more. No, that Lucas Van Ness, he's okay. I mean, he might get better, but I understand what you're saying with the position situation, but that's why they got Blake Cashman. Aiden Hutchinson would be the answer for me on defense, and it's quite honestly not even close. I mean, this is a defensive end, who all of his career is going to push Michael Strahan's sack record, assuming Strahan still owns it. I think he does. He's just that good, and it requires attention that permits others to feed, as they say in the business. Aiden Hutchinson for me. Now, on offense, would it be rosters right now, or do I get to include like the draft, because I know the Bears are taking Caleb Williams, and I would take Caleb Williams on my team 10 out of 10 times.
Well, you and Dave should hang out because Dave did that as well. Go ahead.
Wow. I mean, would Jared Goff be the right answer because we don't have a quarterback? I'm going to have to say Amon-Ra St. Brown. I mean, Dave nailed it, or whomever said that. Laporta is another that I would strongly consider because he protects, he blocks you right to the whistle, and he's very tough. And, I think he had 9 or 10 touchdowns last year. Sam Laporta is coming off the greatest rookie season in the history of tight ends in the history of the NFL. So, I'm quite you know what? We have JJ, but then there's Amon-Ra. We have TJ, but there's Sam. I'm taking Laporta and Hutchinson.
So, PA, this exact question, this exact time last year, I'm picking our current running back, Aaron Jones. I mean, what do you think about that pickup and how it fits this Vikings team?
Well, I mean, if we're laying all the teams out and we get to pick anybody, I'm not taking Aaron because he misses games. But as you know, it goes here. I like it a lot, and I like it for many reasons. I mean, Aaron, or several reasons. Aaron, the way he finished the season when he got healthy, was the identity of Green Bay's offense. So because of that, Love was able to go basically 7-1 touchdowns to interceptions. And also off of that, Tucker Kraft, the tight end, and Dontavian Wicks and Romeo Dobbs and Jaden Reed. You know, they all were products of defenses having to focus on Aaron because Aaron is fast, he catches, and he's high end when he's healthy. So I like that. But another facet I like is he legitimately is motivated. I mean, you know, he's released by Green Bay, and he could have played the game of sitting around for a week and a half, 2 weeks, might have gotten another $1.5 million, something like that. But he's like, nah, they released me. They immediately had somebody else in mind in Josh Jacobs, who Aaron thinks he's better than, I would assume. So I'm going to go to the division rival and try to beat him. Now, Detroit, you know, is the best overall team in the division, but you look at that, you got David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. That ain't going to work. So then does he want to play outside at this stage of his career? You know, so does that mean Chicago with Caleb and DJ Moore and Keenan Allen? Now that ain't going to work. So I'm going to go to this team because I know they're going to get a good quarterback. They got 18 over there. They got 87 when he gets back. They got Addison. I like that.
So we've been talking about some big names since we've had you on. I want to talk about a more under-the-radar name, but playing a position where this team, the Minnesota Vikings, needs a lot of help. You expressed, I think on 9 to Noon, a little bit of excitement. I want you to expand on it, on the Jerry Tillery signing, because that could be under the radar big for this team, no pun intended. Go ahead.
Yeah, I wouldn't say, you know, voiced a lot of excitement, but I like wild cards. And football being an emotional, physical game, and only once a week, that's the game where undrafted John Randalls, Marcus Sherrills, Adam Thielen, and Ivan Pace Jr.'s, where they fit and they last and they change games. Okay. I mean, trying to find a game changer in the second round of the NBA draft. Yeah. I mean, that's fruitless for the most part. So, but football's not like that. All right. Now flip it the other way. Hillary was a first round draft pick of the Los Angeles Chargers, and it just hasn't worked out great. Now last year, Kwesi and staff saw some things, and I saw it in our game against the Raiders, that 3-0 disaster where Dobbs put Jefferson in the hospital. In that game, Tillery was a freaking handful. I mean, he didn't get there every time, but you could see the ability and see the tenacity. So now they're forward thinking like this, that we've seen enough to know it's there, and we believe Brian in Flores can pull it out. So, like, you know, Harrison Phillips just had his best year. Jordan Hicks had the best year of his career. So did Cam Bynum. You got Ivan Pace, so on and so on and so on. DJ Wanham before he got hurt. So they believe, I'm convinced they believe, the wherewithal, tenacity, fortitude, and skill set with Tillery is there as a pass rushing defensive tackle. The question is, can they pull it out?
That'll be a question that hopefully gets answered soon. Speaking of questions that need to be answered soon, we did a bit called Buy or Sell, the segment right before you. And our NFL Buy or Sell was, there's been a ton of steam about J.J. McCarthy to the Vikes. There's been some steam about Drake May to the Vikes. And we did Buy or Sell that the Minnesota Vikings come out of this draft without either one of those players. And we were kind of dumbfounded on what to come up with as our answer. What do you see? And I think a question that I wanted to ask you, and I'm not even sure if you want to answer this, but when you had Kwesi on 9 to Noon, he said that his preferred scenario was still very much in play. Do you have one? Is there a guy that you're just pining for?
Yeah, I want him to trade up for Drake May. And I don't know how you're going to do it. But first and foremost, you know, and this happens every year with a lot of people, including me. I've gotten better at it, but we see so many mock drafts and we read so many Bucky Brooks and Daniel Jeremiah's and, you know, people who are closer to the game than most people. And they lay it out a certain way where your mindset then becomes married to, okay, well, it just has to be Caleb, Jaden, Drake, Caleb, Drake, Jaden. Well, I mean, does it? I mean, it may not. I mean, who's to say at 3, the New England Patriots, think about this. If you draft a quarterback with that 3rd overall pick, say it's Drake May, I mean, are you really going to put him into that Patriots offense with that line that is being rebuilt? The receiver situation's been a disaster for years, and the running back bit, that's not great either. So I ain't putting Drake May in that. Okay, we can use Jacoby Brissett. Well, great. Now you use that pick on this guy, and everybody wants to see him, and you're not using him. And if you do use him, he might get hit so much or just get the game beaten out of him that where now you got concerns. So, with New England, I'm not completely certain that pick's not available. So therefore, that would be the one you would need to get one of those quarterbacks we're talking about. When it comes to McCarthy, I'm cool with McCarthy, man. I've told you this before. Into the 2020 draft with the right people saying it was the deepest wide receiver draft in the world, I'm like, pump the brakes. I got to wait. Well, they were right. They were right about the tight ends last year.
Right.
And all the same people are saying the same thing about the quarterbacks this year. They're going to be right. So, there are probably 4, 5, 6, 7 of these guys who are going to matter, and 3 or 4 who have a chance to be really, 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 really good. We need one of those. Kwesi has, for whatever the reason, has fired a lot of shots since free agency opened. I mean, he's empty in that chamber, man. But as I said, 9 to noon on Thursday, it's been good. I mean, from Grenard through Van Ginkel through rolling the dice with Shaq Griffin, who is a veteran who can play. That's all been good. The silver bullet is in a month. And if the silver bullet doesn't hit, you got problems.
You certainly do. You mentioned Shaq Griffin. I was going to go there, but you already did. But I'm going to stay with that position and go to another team in the league. Your thoughts about late last night, L'Jarius Sneed is now a Titan. That caught me by surprise, and the price tag wasn't terrible.
Yeah, I like him. I don't trust him as much as some other people. L'Jarius is very, very good. But when you're playing defense for a Patrick Mahomes-led team, you can play a little more differently than you can for a lot of teams, including the Tennessee Titans with Will Levis. So L'Jarius, I think he had 18 penalties last year. I mean, he had a lot of penalties. Let's just put it that way. In fact, maybe league high. Very handsy. He can be aggressive, but yeah, I like him. I don't love him. Not exactly sure what the price tag is or was. I wouldn't mind having him here, to be honest with you. But yeah, so good for L'Jarius, and we'll see what happens with KC.
Hey, PA, one of the things, listening to some of the talking heads you were talking about, they were saying how much love there was for J.J. McCarthy at his pro day, that the sophomores and freshmen were coming out and supporting their quarterback. Well, I have a question for you. Have you seen a quarterback at the NFL level that his team just kind of was like, oh, yeah, that guy, that they weren't particularly fans or didn't support their quarterback? It seems to be a common
pro day?
thing. Or no, just in general. Like in the pro day in this case, that they loved him. But I'm just wondering, over in the NFL, when you're watching, have you seen a starting quarterback that the team was just like, yeah, okay, this guy?
Yeah, I mean, it's all over the place. It generally, like let's look at the New England Patriots, all right, in Belichick's final year. Whether it's Mac Jones or Bailey Zappi rolling out there, we got this guy. Sam Howell for Washington. Sam has a nice skill set, but he wrecks games. So that's kind of this guy. Atlanta, Desmond Ridder and Taylor Heineke. It's kind of that, But to go on with that year after year after year, that's what you need to correct. And that's why I mentioned with Kwesi empty in the chamber in free agency, most, if not all of these bullets have hit. And with Flores, a lot of these players on defense, I think are going to end up being really good in this particular defense. But the beast, the metaphorical werewolf is the quarterback. And the silver bullet has to hit. If the silver bullet doesn't hit, okay, Darnold, Mullins, Hall, whomever, remember you got that 23, so then you can manipulate around there. I'm not as sure as other people are, just riding discernment that the Washington quarterback Penix is going to go around 23. I think he's going to go a lot higher because I think teams are going to start panicking and pressing. So you have 23 and 11 and next year's first round pick. It's going to take all three of those to get up where you want for McCarthy or May. Now, how desperate is Denver? They don't have as much as you, But do they care? Honestly, do they care? I mean, they just might throw whatever it takes to get whatever, and that may set them back for years. But who cares? I mean, how far does this set us back if we don't get what we want because somebody was desperate? So all of that's beginning to machinate.
Great word. I didn't think machinate would make its way on the show, but here we are. A couple minutes from now, we have a basketball guest, so I want to close talking a little basketball with you. You were at the Timberwolves game earlier this week. Nice win for the Wolves last night. Earlier this week, I don't know if you can be more impressed with a team in a losing effort against Denver. In fact, I hate the phrase losing effort because the effort was amazing. But Dave and I were talking about how the Target Center just hits different this year. The atmosphere there is second to none right now.
Yeah, it's. I wouldn't say second to none. Simply because I've seen a lot of atmospheres in regular seasons all over the place. It's good. It's improving. They should believe. Anthony legitimately has some star power to him with the way he's beating guys off the dribble, and his assists are like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 every single game. So he's beating guys off dribble. They're getting the double on, and then he's kicking. And some superstars don't kick. They try to draw the foul and then throw up stupid shots. Karl Anthony Towns does that a lot, and I'm not willing to call him a superstar. So with Rudy Gobert and Naz Reid and Anthony Edwards and Jaden McDaniels being wildly inconsistent, those guys right there it's gonna be dictated on to a certain extent how well or poorly those guys play. And I trust them. I don't know if they can beat the Denver Nuggets in a playoff series, but the Target Center is really, really into it. As you rock me like a hurricane.
Absolutely. We're actually bumping you out with Flashlight today. Can't find the Vikes' next loss with a flashlight yet anyway.
Red light.
There you
Neon
go.
Light.
Sing it out. You can bump yourself out. We appreciate you. Let's do this again soon.
Thanks, PA.
That's our guy, PA, Paul Allen, the Vox, the voice of the Vikings. When we come back, we said our next guest was about basketball. We'll talk to Jim Schwarzbauer with DAYBA, their all-star game, weather permitting, a phrase that hasn't been uttered this winter. It's coming up on Tuesday. We'll talk more about it. Stick around. We'll be right back. Back on the Northland Sports page, it'll play that funky music by Wild Cherry. PA earlier was mentioning one-hit wonders. Dave, you and I were talking about earlier today before the show started. That's certainly one.
Well, and the question is it one of the greatest one-hit wonders of all times? And then is Wild Cherry, like, they're a one-song band, aren't they? Like, they're a little like the Knack with My Sharona or the Safety Dance guys, right? They have.
Is that Men Without Hats?
It is, which is, again, a strange. I mean, you can fix that, right? That's an easy fix.
Buy a hat.
Yep. It just an intro. We'll have to do that one day. We'll have to just do one-hit wonders all the way through our show musically.
I like that idea. There's always a method to our madness with the music. Today, my choice of Wild Cherry is because I hope later today that Cherry can go wild. I hope the Tigers get their first state boys basketball title.
Absolutely. And like we said, there's one player to watch in particular, but there's more than one on that team. If you trust that, if you think your team can shut one guy down, you're still going to lose a Cherry. Absolutely.
There's the entire Awesome family on the floor. There's Noah Sundquist on the floor. We'll talk a lot more about these players in just a moment as we're going to spotlight the DAYBA Border Battle All-Star Game with Jim Schwarzbauer. Again, very shortly, but first, love for our sponsors. I'll get it started this time, Dave, because Blackwoods did a great thing here for Easter. They've extended the delivery deadline, the order deadline for Easter for their family dinner that serves 6 for $165, extended to Tuesday. Again, you can do it via email, easter@blackwoods.com, or simply give Jessica a call, 218-625-6147, or, of course, the on-site brunch at Graceland. Tough to beat.
Well, it is, and it's not just that the food is fantastic, but the folks at Graceland, this is what they do, right? They are put on a spread for a number of people. This is their talent.
I was going to say, I feel like the Blackwoods Group and Fantastic are basically synonyms in my world.
Yeah, and again, we spend our money there, so should you.
I took my wife there for her birthday. Tavern on the Hill was her choice, so that's kind of a common choice for us anyway.
All of our family birthday dinners, kind of in the Blackwoods Group.
Absolutely.
Pick one. Mount Royal Bottle Shop, Stewart's Bike Sports and Trophies, Kohler Toyota and Kohler Hyundai, Comfort Systems, Arola Architecture Studio, Hoops Brewing, OAR Holdings, Kraus Heating and Cooling, and Advantage Emblem, and Screen Printing.
So we absolutely have an all-star cast of sponsors. And speaking of all-stars, we talked about the Essentia Health Hockey All-Star Game a few weeks back with our good buddy John Carlson. Basketball, they'll get their turn, weather permitting, this week, scheduled for March 26th, which is Tuesday. It's the DAYBA Border Battle, the boys and girls basketball all-star games featuring teams made up of all-stars from Minnesota and Wisconsin. Jim Schwarzbauer is going to join us in just a few seconds to discuss that. Dave Cook, like a good student, had your hand in the air. What can I do for you?
Because I wanted to ask you now how many years in a row that you've done this, because you've seen a lot of players come through this game.
I have. The only problem with that question is the in a row, because COVID, I think, put the wraps on two of them.
You can't count those.
Right. I think I've been doing it since 2011 or 12, but again, COVID got in the way. We're going to hope the weather doesn't this time around. Let's bring in Jim Schwarzbauer. He's been holding on ever so politely for us. Jim, we appreciate that. And let's just start with a phrase that, again, hasn't had to be uttered much this winter. Winter heavy on the air quotes. But if the forecast is right, could get a little dicey Sunday through Tuesday. You sent me the game program and said, here's the information, weather permitting. If Mother Nature doesn't cooperate, is this not happening this year, or is there a postponement date kind of in your back pocket? And, of course, good morning, my friend.
Good morning to you. The game is on. We had a meeting the other night, and there was just no way you could have it another day. Since that time, it looks like, I'm guardedly optimistic, that the weather should start clearing up on Tuesday, hopefully by noon. So, yes, it's going to happen.
All right, perfect. That is good to hear, because there's a lot of good players to see. I want you to do me a favor and talk a little bit more about the teams that are involved in terms of Minnesota and Wisconsin, but specifically about Wisconsin, because our listeners in this area are fairly familiar with the players that'll be spotlighted from Minnesota, just because there's simply more schools in the area that get a lot more spotlight time, if you will. When we get to some of these Wisconsin team members, you get beyond Superior and there's just not as much knowledge. Tell us a little bit about the Team Wisconsin players that we should be looking for.
Well, first off, on the boys' side, Wisconsin, we have 7 of the 10 are either All-State or honorable mention All-State. I would say led by Isaiah Castern out of Solon Springs. This second-year All-State, 2,000-point scorer. He's joined on the team by Dylan Taggart, honorable mention All-State. Dylan is going to UMD for cross-country and track, but he also ended up the number 2 on assists in all of boys basketball in Wisconsin. He was leading most of the season, and Isaiah, I think, was like number 7. He was 8th in scoring at 29 points a game. So they are a very formidable duo. They played Cherry, played them hard. They went to state for the first time. Remember, Wisconsin only has four teams that qualify for state. So those are the 2 that come from a very solid program. I would love to have seen them win that thing. So those are 2 to look out for. It is going to be a tough match to stop Isaiah Castern inside. He's heading to Bemidji State next year. Another player they have is this Gunnar Gruel out of Winter. Most people don't know him, but Gunnar is he's a character. Long hair, headband, reminds me of Bill Walton, I think, sometimes going way back when. But he led the state of Wisconsin in rebounding. At one point, he was like 22, 23 rebounds a game, was actually leading the entire nation, but finished just under 20 a game. Great player to watch, so he'll be fun as he takes care of stuff. We got 2 kids out of Cameron, All-Stater in Tyson Lucas, great little point guard. And the other player we have is Brady Quinn, 6'3". In fact, very much reminds me those 2 of the 2 kids we have coming in from Cherry, playing similar positions. Brady gets to the rim just like Noah Sundquist could get to the rim. I don't know if you've seen what's happening, but when I left the Cherry game, I think they were up 28-14, and some just phenomenal plays on their parts. Hopefully that continues. Other players, Ryan Popovich, he's 6'4", All-State again this year out of Bruce. You've got Andrew Roxvold, Eau Claire North. He's heading to Eau Claire College. Great big kid. Watched him play against Superior. He just could get to the rim, and he can shoot from outside. And speaking of Superior, we do have one really talented kid coming out of Superior, Trey Saniger. If you haven't had a chance to watch him, that kid plays. I mean, he's like up and down. He steals that ball. I've seen him have, 40 points in a game. All of a sudden they could be down by a couple, and pretty soon Superior could be up by 6, only because Trey just made a couple steals, hit a couple of threes. Great, unselfish ball player. And the last ones we have, Dominic Schwarzenberger out of Bloomer, 6'3", honorable mention, All-State. Again, great shooter, leading scorer on their team. We got a lot of kids that can put the ball up. And lastly, we have Bo Volbrath. He's a 6'6" kid out of Fall Creek. Last year he was All-State. This year, honorable mention. A big reason why he didn't make All-State this year is on the very first game of the football season, broke his leg. And we were thinking, we really was hoping he could play this year. And in January, he came back and started playing, and he's coming in, and so we appreciate that. So on the boys' side, this may be one of the best, if not the best, Wisconsin boys basketball roster that we've been able to put together. These are, you can't have 7 out of 10 All-Staters, and many of them repeats from the year before without realizing they are going to be tough to beat.
Yeah, it is very impressive. I wanted to educate our listeners on the Wisconsin side of things because, again, we don't see them quite as often. But you look at the Minnesota side, and, there's a lot of people we are familiar with. You mentioned, Isaac Osama is going to draw a crowd. I saw Luke Diem play in the East Gym. Mr. Ferguson out of Denfeld is quite good. Brooks Johnson has been a story all his own. I'm glad you mentioned Noah Sundquist, because if you play Cherry and you dedicate your attention to stopping anybody named Osama, Noah Sundquist is simply going to burn you.
The first time I got to watch Noah play this year that was a Superior game. My grandson plays on the JV for Superior, so I was up at Cherry. You know what I'm saying? Because everybody comes in to watch the Asamas, and I'm sitting there saying, this son, he's in the passing lanes. I saw him make a steal, go the length of the floor, slam dunk the ball, and he's doing a similar thing in Fertile Beltrami. I think he had, there's a highlight reel where Carson Brown already throws him an alley-oop. He goes over the top of the big kid from Fertile, lays it off the rim he's scary good, Noah is. So, yes, he's well worth the I think he's the second leading scorer on the team. He's another, 1,000-point scorer. But
yeah, he's truly incredible. Jim, I want to talk a little bit about the girls' side of things, too, because we talk regularly, whether it's with Diami Starks, CJ Osuchiku, insert girls' basketball coach here. We talk about how good the girls' basketball talent has gotten, particularly in northeastern Minnesota. And you look at, I'm peeking at the girls' roster for Minnesota, and it's star-studded. Ava Carlson's been unreal. Regan Juneman, both at East and Marshall, has been great. Rock Ridge made the state tournament. Jordan Zubich, Ali Savala, they've won state tournaments. Tori Orline is unbelievable. The girls' Minnesota team worth a watch in its own right.
That is a loaded, absolutely loaded group of people that flat out can play. You've mentioned the kids. I don't even know where to start. We try to stay as many of the really good seniors that we can find. We look and see, are there any good sophomores? Well, we certainly found one. Obviously Juderman is good. And then very seldom, but once in a while, we say, is there anybody that's a sophomore that's talented enough to play? And we already knew that. Tori is just that good.
She's on a different level, no question about it.
She's on a totally different level. Over 3,000 points now. She's on her way to going over 5,000 points, which is the leading scorer in Minnesota history. Is a kid that played for Braham. The Dahlman girl. Who I see that happening at some point in time. Her senior year, assuming she doesn't have any injuries. Zubich, you mentioned. An MIB kid heading to North Carolina.
That's kind of a big deal in its own right? When you got a northeastern Minnesota kid going to Chapel Hill, that's a big deal.
Yep, I started watching more of their games to see how good they were, and I'm saying Jordan will play for them. She's that good. Sabala is, yes, also very good. That's the one thing that MIB seems to do. They continue to load up. You want to say, years ago, well, that's as good as MIB is going to get. And they'll find other players to replace, Zubic and Sabala. Whether they'll ever have another ball player as good as Zubic, we'll see, but it'll be hard-pressed to do that. The Bungard girl, the 6'1" kid out of Chisholm, is also very talented. I mean, she is the leading rebounder in Minnesota High School League girls, most rebounds ever. She's the leading scorer on their team. So she's got a lot of talent. You mentioned Ava Carlson. Ava has a unique thing. She is not only a 1,000-point scorer, but she's had over 1,000 kills in volleyball. And that just shows you multi-sport athletes. Many of them are in this game, and that's just a compliment to her.
Absolutely. It is a star-studded set of rosters at the DAYBA Border Battle. Again, it's coming up on Tuesday, March 26th. I will be the public address announcer. The game will be at Romano Gym at UMD. The games, I should say, girls followed by the boys. I've been blessed to do this for about 10 years. Each of those years, there's been a deeper cause to the games as well. Talk a little bit about, again, working with Smiles for Jake and suicide prevention.
3 years ago, we reached out to a group from the Brainerd area, Smiles for Jake. We know that it is more than just a game about basketball, because that's where we start off. It's become more things. And so one of the biggest things is the idea that we needed to add a mental health component to it. And Smiles for Jake is coming back for the third year. We just can't simply showcase the skilled athletes. We have to look at things. And so they will talk to the kids. We have the executive director will talk, but one of the more powerful speeches comes from Jake's dad, who was reluctant at first after his son took his own life. But then he started hearing when they started a Smiles for Jake, he let them do it. He got on the board. He says, I'm hearing really great things. Lives have been saved because of that. And so he talks a little bit about that with the kids, and they get shirts. Their shooting shirts have Smiles for Jake on, because we hope that these kids themselves will wear that, and somebody will come up to them, somebody that maybe admire them, and they'll say, "What's Smiles for Jake?" And we hope the kids will say, "And this is what Smiles for Jake is." And this is how important of seeking out help when help is needed. So that's become an important part, very important part.
Absolutely. The message getting out is extremely vital. Speaking of vital things, let's wrap with this, Jim Schwarzbauer, as we talk about, again, Tuesday's All-Star Games, border battle style, courtesy of DAYBA, Duluth Amateur Youth Basketball Association. I just want you to close kind of with Journalism 101. I gave a little bit of it. Give us the who, what, when, where, and ticket prices, and how people can join the fun on Tuesday.
Well, the starts if game time is at 6 o'clock for the girls, 7:30 for the boys. After that's done, I mean, we're also going to have other things that are going to go on. We have, the awarding of scholarships. We have 4 kids, and one of the 4 winners is one of the ball players from Superior, Ava Peterson, and that's something we've added to that it's important to start giving scholarships out to these kids. We're acknowledging the Bob McDonald Legacy Award, and it's going to the Crosby Ironton head coach for the boys and his assistant this year. So that's something we started last year. We also have invited the unified athletic basketball programs and other ones from the other schools. Unified is bringing together kids that have different special needs, and they're on basketball teams with others. And so that's a part of what we think is acknowledging the unified champion schools, because that's a nice educational. We hope when they come there, some of the kids will say, I've never heard of unified champion schools. And this one, they'll sort of have a table set up so they can see, oh, okay, now I get it. Now that is, maybe we should try to have some of that, because do any research on it, you find out the schools that have unified champion schools, the amount of bullying that takes place with kids who might have Down syndrome and other kinds of things goes way down because the kids are together. And so that's a huge component to it. And we're also hoping, we did this last year when MIB won the girls' state basketball championship. We're hoping that Cherry holds on today because we would be acknowledging them between the girls' game and the boys' game as a state champion. So lots of things going on. UMD coaching staff talking to the kids, just a lot of things beyond just basketball.
Jim, this was great. Tuesday will be great. I'm looking forward to seeing you on Tuesday. It'll be another fun event. It looks like, I don't want to jinx anything, but we should be honoring Cherry. Last report, they're up by 20-plus at the half. Thank you very much for the time, and I'll see you Tuesday night.
Thank you. We'll see you, I appreciate it.
Absolutely. That's Jim Schwarzbauer, part of the DAYBA Border Battle All-Star Game. One segment to go. We do the safety dance next with Vencie Glenn. We will be right back. Back on the Northland Sports page, one segment left. You know what it is if you're listening hard to the intro song, the safety dance. Time to bring back our favorite safety, Vencie Glenn. Because Dave Cook, I felt like we rushed him last week. There's always more to talk about with Vencie.
Oh, absolutely. And one of those things we've talked about, we should just have an hour long every so often with Vencie because we do. We get done with Vencie section and we go, I had this question and that question and other question.
I think that's a show idea. I think we could go 2 to 5 with 2-5. What do you think? 3 hours of Vencie?
I think that'd work.
Because we could certainly talk about Indiana State life as well. And I told you I would, Vencie Glenn, because tomorrow in the NIT round 2, it's Gophers Sycamores. And my two favorite Sycamores of all time are Vencie Glenn and Larry Bird. I never thought I would have such heroes coming out of Indiana State. But you told me, what, 2-5, that they breed greatness? And good morning.
Hey, good morning. Hey, there's nothing wrong with you having some greatness in your life, so it's good to have great people you root for.
Absolutely, and you are high on that list. You may headline that list for us. It's good to have you back because, like we said, we get done with one segment one day, and there's always so much more to talk about, and especially with NFL free agency, NFL draft, all the speculation and signings, they just keep coming. Do you eat that stuff up, or you're more football versus fan ball? Do you shrug it off?
I love NCAA March Madness. I don't get into off season really too much, especially nowadays, because guys gonna take the money and run. It might not be the best fit for them, and so that's just the way of professional sports now. But NCAA basketball is just pure form at its best.
All right, so let's go there to start with them because your Indiana State Sycamores, they play the Gophers tomorrow in round 2 of the NIT, but you and I texted earlier this week. They got absolutely robbed because I think their net ranking was in the high 20s and they were kept out of the tournament. Meanwhile, we were all forced to watch, Virginia play in their tournament game and kind of embarrass the game of basketball. You look at how the Northwestern game before it ended up a thriller in overtime yesterday. I think that game was 20-19 at the half. I mean, there were some bad basketball teams on display that Indiana State could have happily taken the place of.
Yeah, that's definitely true, but we had our own destiny in our hands, and we got ranked in the top 25 and number 23, and we lost 2 games back-to-back that really just hurt us at the wrong time. But we definitely, a lot of teams offer not to even go to the NIT because they thought they got robbed. A few teams decided not to play. But we're in a position where we're trying to build our program over there athletic-wise and athletics. And so it's good for us to get in the NIT, win some games, and just, it helps with recruiting. So it's a good opportunity for my university. We're a 1AA school, and I love everything about it.
Vencie, that's a great question. I didn't even think to ask. Is there any point in a basketball team or any team that you should turn down the opportunity to play in a postseason?
I got one now, but go ahead, Vencie.
I got to see the logic.
I wouldn't, and it's a financial thing. How much money we gonna make, how much money we gonna spend. All that kind of stuff comes into play. What are we more focused on, recruiting, whatever. You know what I'm saying? So it's an internal question. I don't have no problem with it. Everybody wants to play in the big game, and so it's like it's a I don't know what's a ceremonial game. I guess NIT they think of it as.
Yeah.
I agree with that, but I'm going to tell you guys this. I think part of the reason is the transfer portal is open while the postseason tournaments aren't done. If you decide not to play in one, you can start to shape your roster for future years versus if you're in the NIT, you're not quote-unquote good enough to be in the real tournament, but you're still playing, wondering who's here, who's not, and you're missing out on portal opportunities. That's part of what we've said, Dave, is ruining college sports now.
Oh, 100%. 100% ruining football specifically, but basketball as well.
Let's talk a little bit more about football because, Vencie Glenn, this could be a franchise-altering draft for the Minnesota Vikings. We just talked to Paul Allen, the voice of the Vikings, about, is it May, is it McCarthy, is it somebody else? Do you get wrapped up in watching pro days? And I know you watch a lot of college football. Do you have a hard take on taking one quarterback over another if you're looking for one?
Absolutely not. Hey, I'm going to tell you guys this, and this hopefully you really truly understand when I say this to all my fans, all four of you guys out there.
So two besides us, but go ahead.
Vencie Glenn, 2-5. I don't care if you drafted number 1 in the world every year. Can you play on Sunday? Period. End of conversation. Don't tell me how great somebody is and they the next this and this. I played the game. It ain't that easy. And nowadays, with the way things are, and everybody don't want to win championships. Some people out for fame, some people out for, notoriety, some, different reasons. And it's hard to get guys that want to win. So on a consistent basis. So if you're talking about, hey, I'm going to be all this and that in the NFL, well, you better talk to them other, 60-man roster. You better talk to them other 59 dudes on your team. Make sure that they in it with you because you ain't going to be no good if they ain't no good.
Okay, Vencie, you led me right into my question, and I appreciate that. I was reading some stuff on J.J. McCarthy, and they were talking about how during his pro days, the freshmen and the sophomores and the juniors all came out, helped out, shagged balls, did all the extra stuff because, quote unquote, they love J.J. McCarthy. Now you throw the 27-1 on his college record. Is that the stuff you're talking about? Sounds like his team loves him, and he's put W's on the board.
Man, I done seen the Johnny Manziel, Baker Mayfield, what's the dude named Jermaine Russell, and I done seen all these dudes come out and supposed to be the next this and that,
Yep.
Man. Where are they? Looking for a job. Look how many guys have been drafted in the first round and all these Mel Kiper reports and stuff over the last 10 years, and they were ahead of Mahomes, and they were ahead of all of the quarterbacks the ones that actually went on to do something. And these guys were buffed and all that. You know what I'm saying? So I don't care what man, if you ain't played the game at a high level, you ain't really truly understanding unless you're in the locker room day in and day out, man. And it's just about getting guys wanting to play together on a regular basis. That's football.
It is football. So I'm going to go with a heavy rewind button, and we did it with Paul Allen as well, and we did it in the opening segment. Today we had some fun with current rosters, and is there anybody that's in your division that you look at him and say, I wish we had him here? And with football, we did it offensively and defensively. Think back to when you were playing in Minnesota. Was there anybody on a Green Bay, Detroit, Chicago, even Tampa back then that you looked at and said, that guy can play for real on Sundays? We'd be better if we had him. Was there anybody that stood out? You talk about recruiting. Did anybody recruit and say, come join us, please?
Hey, I don't know what Mr. Allen had to say on throwback, but look here, V. Glenn, I played with the guys I played with. I ain't never going to sit there and look on the other side of the field and say, man, I wish I was on the team with that guy. If I happen to be on the team with him at some point in time, I career, great. But, man, I love the guys I played with, and I would never say I'd rather have this guy on my team than the guys I played with, bro. I don't care what position you played. So, for me, I didn't look at it like that, man. I love the guys I played with. That's what you get dealt with, and that's the beauty of when you win with guys that people don't think you should be winning with, and it's just like I say, it's about just wanting to be together and win a championship, and that's all sports is on any level.
All right, so I love that answer. I'm going to jump on you right here, and I'm going to follow up with this. Is that part of what's wrong with the landscape of sports today? Because you've got, certainly in the NBA, guys, chumming around in the offseason trying to build super teams and looking over your shoulder going, if we had that guy and we had that guy, life would be different. Is there just generally not enough love, as you put it, in locker room camaraderie for, maybe not star-studded teams to come together and have enough heart to win?
Well, those questions are already answered, and I'm going to show you why. Start in the beginning. Look at high school football. Look at college football. Look at these young kids and stuff. They making money. We weren't making money and things like that.
Right.
So the whole way they look at sports and people, the entitlement of you should pay me because I'm all this and that, and it's just that's the mentality of the people that you got to deal with, and that's hard, especially when you come from a different era, and all of a sudden it's like, man, then you can't even talk to these kids. You can't even say nothing. You can't even suggest nothing as a man, as a character builder, because the first thing they know in life is, I need money.
Yeah,
I got to get paid. I'm worth this. And so when you're sitting there trying to build a team, you got so many guys that are stars that don't want to come to practice, don't want to practice, man. Just got attitude different. They get treated different and all that. And so you sitting in the locker room like, man, we ain't going to never win like this, bro. Because our stars who the hell all the time are the ones that don't come to practice on time. Don't show up late to meetings.
Such an interesting thing. I got, again, 9 questions I could ask Vencie at this point.
I know, we got 60 seconds.
I got one left. All right, Aaron Jones came from the Packers to the Vikings. Vencie, is there anything to the idea of, well, I got screwed by that team, so I'm going to go play for them in the division so I can beat them twice? Is that a mentality that an NFL player might have?
Yeah, yes and no. It depends if you're a professional. If you're a professional, you're going where you think you're worth the money and you got a chance to win, and that's just plain and simple. So, and you'll look back on the game, you'll love those guys, but you're gonna want to beat them as an organization that you may have thought gave up on.
Vencie, you are the best. That's almost one of the shortest answers you've given, but this is why I say 2 to 5 with 2-5 needs to become a reality someday. We need a good 3 hours with you because you give a perspective and you kind of give the easy, I played on Sundays and this is how it should be. I miss that mentality in general.
Yeah, it's just sports, man. I mean, we've all played sports growing up, and you look at it and you think about when you were a kid, it was fun. You enjoy going out there playing together. That doesn't change as you get older. Just your mentality changes and how you perceive yourself. Whether you think you're bigger than the game, or you just want to be a big part of the game and love the game. It's how you perceive it.
100%. I know when we talk about football, you always tell me now, B, I don't do scores. I'm going to ask you for one. Sycamores Gophers tomorrow. Who you got? I think I know this, and by how much?
Oh, you know Sycamore's going to put that thing on them Gophers. We're going to run y'all right back in them holes y'all come up out of. Yeah, we got Big Robbie got something for y'all. Man, I ain't scared to brag on my school now. We're going to come in there. We're going to whoop some butt on y'all. So y'all Gophers, I appreciate the state of Minnesota. But tomorrow going to be a hard day, people.
All right. Fair enough.
Next year.
25, we love you. Let's do it again soon.
All right. Take care, guys. Appreciate
Absolutely. That's Vencie Glenn. What a great day again. Thank you, PA. Thank you, Dave Hoops. Thank you, Vencie Glenn. Thank you, Jim Schwarzbauer. Thank you, Dave Cook. We got to go. Have a good weekend, Northland. We'll see you.